Welcome to the Service MVP podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's Service Sales Coach, and we have with us a really what called dynamic entrepreneur. His name is Richard Lewis from Redwood Services. Richard, welcome to the program. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Well, what I noticed in my dealings with Redwood Services, Richard, and today's subject we're going to call it is maximizing the value of your service business. Richard, and I think there's anybody who's more positioned as an expert on what you're looking for to create excellence in a business so that it's a company that's worth investing. You want to go ahead and tell us about yourself and what Redwood Services does to make sure everybody kind of knows the context of what we're talking about here?
For sure. Thanks for having me again. My name's Richard Lewis. From Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised here. Went to school in New York, moved back to Memphis in 2008, and I spent 12 years with a very large home services business called ServiceMaster, where I fell in love with this industry. I was working across multiple trades, different functions, and just developed a passion for the home services space, and also developed not a passion for the way big corporations function. And so 4 years ago, I left, started this group called Redwood Services, where we invest in residential HVAC and plumbing companies across the U.S. And today we have 15 what we call partner companies from coast to coast. We are not geographical investors. We look for the best businesses wherever they are, and we invest in them. We don't centralize key function. We don't strip out the call center. We don't strip out marketing. We don't rebrand. We find the best services companies in the country and invest alongside them, and then try to support them with the resources and the things that we're really good at. And today there are 32 of us, I believe, at the Redwood level, supporting 15 businesses across the country, like I mentioned. And those 15 businesses combine for roughly 350 million of revenue and 1,700 teammates, and we're off to the races. And every 6 months, it feels like this business is a new business because of the growth that we've experienced. And so, I've obviously know Service MVP, obviously heard your name early on, and just excited to share with you a little bit more about what we're doing, and I think more importantly, how we're doing it.
I think it's a unique business because there's there's probably 50 or more really active participants in providing equity for contractors, but there's a lot of different angles that people take. People just buy the company and say you can exit, which I think that's possible in any kind of a thing like that. But truthfully, what I really hear about Redwood Services that's unique is that you're really a resource-based investor, where not only do you give people money to help grow the business, but you also help them with the resources to direct people where they could put that money to make the biggest impact. And to me, that what I hear what you're saying there is that because you only have 15, I mean, some people buy tons of it, just keep lumping businesses in. Truthfully, when I was sold my business back in the 90s, there was companies like ARS and Blue Dot and people like that just kept piling investors and piling companies up. The problem is they didn't have any operations system, and therefore it was kind of like just compiling revenue, but it wasn't really compiling profit, right? And so the difference I think with Redwood I'm seeing is that you're kind of helping companies create a certain standard of excellence. So that's why this is calling maximize the value of your business. Could you tell us some of the standards that Redwood Services has when they look at a business that, sometimes when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. When you're outside the bottle, you can tell us, what does it look like from your point of view? As to the things you look like, what are you looking for when you're seeing a business that's worthy of investing in? And tell us about that a little bit, some of the standards that have to be met.
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing is we're very selective. Like you mentioned, we have 15 businesses that are part of the Redwood family, and that's in 4 years of really being after this all day, every day. And we say no a lot more than we say yes. And that's either because we can't provide the service business what they're looking for. If the owner wants to completely exit, that's not typically how we do things, or they're not the right fit for us. And, it sounds cliche, but it really starts with the people. John Conway, who's our COO here at Redwood, and myself, we talk to every business owner for an hour just to get to know them before we even take even the first step. And we're trying to get to understand the owner and their business and what they're looking for. And the first thing we're looking for is there good people with a good story and a good culture? And from there, if there is, we'll continue down the path. And, you asked what are some of the things that we're looking for. So in addition, obviously, to the people, we want residential businesses with very little if to no new construction exposure. A little commercial is okay, but again, we're mostly focused on residential, and limited exposure to home warranty and big box. And one of the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs making in our industry is they just want to get to be as big and as large as they can. So they say yes to everything, which when you're trying to grow a business, I can understand wanting to just bring in as much revenue as possible, but that could actually devalue the business. If I'd rather invest in an $8 million revenue business that's 100% residential, non-new construction than I would a $25 million business that has 10 million of new construction and a little bit of commercial and, is kind of all over the place. So I think that's the first lesson is, pure play residential is going to maximize the value of your business way more than just trying to do everything.
Yeah, so you're exposed to more consumers. So I would say that the companies that get involved with home warranty or construction, it's kind of like the lazy marketing way. It's like, yeah, that's how we're going to get our jobs, by people just kind of giving us these the fewer customers providing us these more jobs. The problem is when you only have 5 or 6 customers as a contractor doing construction, that's not as valuable as a contract that would have 50,000 customers to be able to process, and the opportunity with 50,000 people as end user consumers in a house definitely creates a higher value, because now you got a higher user count, and there's so much, and every user creates opportunity. Is that correct, Richard? Is that how you guys kind of look at that?
Yeah, it's not even close. And when we're looking at a business that, let's say, is 75% Mrs. Jones residential and 25% new construction, we'll still have that conversation, but we will basically assign almost no value to that 25% new construction. And that's a surprise to a lot of service owners, service businesses, because to them, it's still generating revenue and they might even have a solid margin on that business. But just the way the market views new construction, it's just night and day to the way the market views just the pure play residential.
Right. So number one, I think it really comes down to focus, right? That if you're focused on gathering as many customers as you can, and sometimes people chase shiny objects, right, that are not profitable or that are impair the profit or impair the value of the business, because there's the allure of the quick dollar on some big project they could get and things like that. I mean, what do you think about that? The kind of discipline it takes to stay focused on this, as opposed to taking the allure of the shiny object. Do you think about that? Is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's not just on the customer acquisition side, it's also on the operational side. Another mistake I think people make is, if your margins are too high, that's actually a red flag for us, because it means you're likely not investing in the business the way you should. So another thing we're looking at besides the mix of the revenue is the discipline on the operation side. Are they part of a best practices group, which we love to see, because that means they're investing in their operations. Do they have a strong controller in the business? Do they have HR in the business? Are they using, the right software, whether it's Service Titan or Intact or QuickBooks on the accounting side? So those are the things we're looking for. And, sometimes people think it's a badge of honor that they're doing 5 million of revenue and have 30%, profit margins. But usually when we dig in and look under the hood, the way they're getting to those, abnormal profit margins is they're just not investing in the business for growth. So they might be able to stay at 5 million at 30% margin, but we want to know what to take to get this business from 5 to 10 to 30 million. And the largest business within the Redwood family will do probably north of 75 million of revenue this year. And when we started our relationship with them, they were doing 30 million. So one of the things that I believe we're really good at is working with these amazing businesses locally and these amazing management teams and supporting them to go from 30 million of revenue to 75 or 15 to 30, whatever it may be.
Well, looking at it from your unique point of view, Richard, what are obviously giving people capital without giving them an idea of where they could grow. So you guys have provided a lot of resources. I know John Conway too is a good friend as well. He was a client of ours back in the day when he used to have his company as well, and he was involved with best practices and all this stuff. And he created an amazing business right there in Memphis, Tennessee. So I definitely have a lot of respect for him as well. And then when you drop his name, you definitely drop a lot of credibility, as you know, in that one. Tell us about some of the resources that it's that you provide companies so that they can imagine what would be the difference if they did have a relationship with Redwood, and what kind of resources, because that's the reason I didn't sell it to Blue Dot and those other companies. I'm like, all right, tell me about how you're going to guide me with the resources to grow this thing. And they didn't have anything. They're like, no, we're just going to give you money and you get the hell out of here. And I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I was looking for that. I was looking for somebody who could give me resources, right? Tell me about the resources that a place like Redwood provides that are real common, like in that 20 to $75 million growth. There had to be something you helped provide there beside money. Because that's the money is only part of it. The expertise and the guidance, like a guy like John Conway can provide, that's something to me was priceless. You can't even put a price on it. But tell me, what are some of those resources that you would provide?
So this is one of my favorite topics to discuss, and honestly, the money has nothing to do with the support. That's just the transaction. That's just allowing an owner to take chips off the table, de-risk their life, because 99% of the time, a large majority of their net worth is tied up in the business. So we're allowing an entrepreneur to take chips off the table, de-risk their life, but still have the keys to the business. And so I think about support, what we do after someone has entered the Redwood family, into three buckets. The first is just resources and additional horsepower. So there are 32 people at the Redwood Partner Support Center, and our only job is to support our partners. We don't do things for them. So we don't do their marketing. We don't do their accounting. We don't do their HR. But I've hired a team of business coaches that work with our partners to allow them to have that level of expertise at their disposal to help them tackle the challenges they may have. And it's similar to being a part of a best practices group, but as opposed to being one of 2,000 contractors in a group that has 30 people supporting it, you're one of 15, and you have John Conway and 10 other operational professionals, marketing coaches, sales coaches, accounting coaches that are there to roll up their sleeves and help you grow your business. So that's kind of the first bucket. And that's where we spend a majority of our time. The second bucket is with our balance sheet. When you're an independent business, every dollar you invest in that business is coming out of your own pocket. And so a lot of the businesses we invest in historically have been hesitant to invest in vehicles, invest in a larger facility, which they know they need, do tuck-in acquisitions around their business to help them grow inorganically. So one of the things we do is we unlock the ability to leverage our balance sheet to grow your business. And we have invested tens of millions of dollars into additional management, tuck-in acquisitions, vehicles, whatever it may be. So that's kind of the second bucket, is the balance sheet. And then the third bucket is around collaboration within the Redwood family. One of the things I love the most about what we're doing is I have 15 businesses that are all really good at something, but not good at everything. And I love when our business in Tucson shares a best practice with our business in Washington, D.C., and our business in Jackson, Mississippi will fly to Fresno, California to help them on a problem they may have. And so that collaboration and that best practice sharing that's occurring organically within the Redwood family is really hard to get elsewhere. And again, can you get some of that by being part of a best practice group or, a CEO roundtable? Yes, you can. But I think how we're doing it and the amount of sharing that goes on within the Redwood family is a huge tailwind to a lot of these businesses as they try to work on their next chapter of growth.
Well, it just kind of inspired me when you said that, because I think what you really get here, to me, it seems like this. So you Redwood, just kind of outlay this and put it out in plain sight here. Redwood Services would come in and say, "Hey, we'll take an equity position in your company. We're going to purchase an equity position, sort of like equity in like in a house. You're saying, hey, let us give you 20% for this house. When we sell the house, we get 20% and you get 80%, whatever. That's the end result. But really, what you get here is like if you had somebody who was building this house, like you're doing, is that when you're spending the money now in the company, you're spending our money and your money from equity from the partners. And so the way I look at it is like oversight. Like you're getting it like, hey, before I dump all this money into this marketing method or this kind of a thing, let me run it by John Conway or run it by one of the guys at Redwood to make sure that that they feel like because I'll be spending, their money and my money when I do this. And I think it's just so great to have, because the best practice groups, what they can't do that you're doing is putting some skin in the game here, and not just giving the advice like even like we do. We give people advice. You're doing even more because you're not just giving advice, but you're giving part of the financial investment that they're doing in the different training or more trucks or the new branding they're going to do and all those things that they may want to do to grow the business. You're also putting that money in, and that provides oversight. Does that make sense, Richard? Am I on the right track on that?
Yeah, you are. So I'll give you an example. We're talking to business number 16 to join the Redwood family, and the way it'll work is, let's say they're doing $20 million a year in revenue. We're going to invest in that business and really become a partner. So the owner is selling a piece of their business to Redwood, and we're writing them a check for that. And then after that's done, both sides, the owner and their management and Redwood, now we're in this thing together. And the goal is to run and grow this business way faster than the owner could ever do on their own with all of the resources that I just described a minute ago. And then to allow them the ability to take the value of their rolled equity, the equity they still own in their business, to have that be worth generational wealth. And that's the goal. So you're making a lot of money up front, but then you're making generational wealth on what we refer to as the second bite. And that's why we're all aligned, because we both have skin in the game now. And this isn't the corporate field dynamic where, you're butting heads on every issue. This is, hey, we really are partners now. Let's determine what we want this business to be, in this next chapter, whether it's doubling, tripling, whatever it may be. And let's work on it together. And if you woke up every day in Minnesota and you were running this business by yourself and you were carrying the entire burden of the weight on your own shoulders, well, now there's 32 people in Memphis that are also worried about your business and are thinking about it and are looking ahead and trying to really be a partner to you as you unlock continued growth.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure for every dollar that contractors spend once they get that money to invest in different things, there's probably 50 things where they stopped or they made a mistake. It's not just putting the money towards stuff. It's like knowing and being discerning on where I'm going to spend the money. Because that's one of the things that gets people nervous. Like, okay, I get all this money. How am I going to spend it? Right. And it feels uncomfortable when you're given funding, and contractors are new to this. They're not sure exactly where it goes. And funny, I'm gonna give you a thing here that you're probably not expecting this, Richard. But Brendan Houston, who is one of my best friends in the history of friends now, he represents your company, and when he told me everything you guys are doing, I'm like, the first thing I thought about is like, man, how can I find that for Service MVP? We we need that. We would really need somebody who comes in as a financial partner to because then it creates a reality that this is a legitimate enterprise now where other people are counting. I think when we count on each other, and Tommy Mello said it himself. Tommy Mello, the famous service contractor expert, said, how do you build $1 billion business? You don't do it by yourself. You do it together with other people. I think that's the key thing there. What do you think of that, Richard? That's that team aspect of things. And by the way, is there like a thing for service MVP? Because it sounds like I'm not trying to buy it from you, but seriously, it's an amazing effort. And if I could have done it here, I would do it. I would do that here. It's such an amazing opportunity.
Well, just as an aside, we should definitely talk about that offline. But I definitely think there's opportunities for you and the incredible thing you've built. But you're right. The whole concept of teamwork and collaboration, that is why Redwood is successful, because the things that I'm good at and the things my team are good at, we're really good at those things. And it's typically the things that contractors are not amazing at. Contractors don't always have the luxury to step back and think about what should this business be like next year or the year after, because they're fighting fires, they're dealing with customers and employees and all the things that go on in the business every day. But my team, we have the luxury of being able to kind of shut the door and just think strategically. What's happening in the world of digital marketing and how can we get ahead of it? Where could we open a next location? What tuck in could we bring into this business? What new service lines should we be adding to the mix? And we're really good at thinking through those things and then executing on the few bets that we actually want to make. And so when you take what we're good at and you combine it with the things that our 15 partner companies are good at, that's when this thing just blows up. And that was my dream 4 years ago. And sitting here today, that is what's happening and why I think we've had some success just in this first few years of the existence of this business.
Well, Richard, I've only met you twice, but each time I have met you, and of course, every time I talk to Brendan and anybody, John Conway as well, the reason it's easy to recommend you, people say, because people ask me sometimes, like, what would you do if you had to pick somebody? I said, well, start at the top of the list with Redwood Services, because I know you're going to get taken care of with care, respect, and support, and they're going to get their team, which is something that you can't put. It's like I always tell people, it's like going to Shark Tank and having Mark Cuban invest in your business, because you're not just going to get the money's not even, that's the minimal. The reason why the money's important, because now you got Mark Cuban's interest and his interest in your business. He's not just got an interest from a distance, but interest inside the business, because he is now an investor in it, and that makes it like he's going to get this across the goal line with you, and that's kind of why I look at it like. And so you're the easiest business to recommend when it comes to this space. I do know there's a lot of people who got to beware. There's equity partners who invest, and then behind the scenes create sort of restrictions on the contractor. It sounds like from your standpoint, there's like, this is the kind of thing where you become a partner and you're not in the business of restricting people on their dreams. You're kind of helping them build it. Is that correct on that, Richard?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, and I love the Shark Tank analogy. I'm going to start using that. But you're right. What I was seeing in my previous life within this industry was the big corporate way is to find a high performing business, purchase that business, and then change all of the things that made that business special, their name, their brand, their culture. So to me, that just doesn't make sense. So my whole approach is I want to find businesses that are already relatively high performing and then not get in the way of the things that are working. We don't have a Redwood way of doing everything. What we do is when we bring in a new partner into the Redwood family, we try to get to know them at a very deep level, and the areas where they need help, we want to help them. And the areas where they say, hey, things are actually going really well in the call center right now, then the main objective is don't jack with it. Don't mess it up. Like, keep doing what you're doing, and let's focus on the areas where you struggle or where you see opportunity, and that's where we're going to dig in. And so that is our approach, is to support where it's needed and not put all these restrictions that just end up sucking the entrepreneurial spirit out of the business.
I just thought of a great slogan for Redwood Services. I'm going to go ahead and give it. I'm going to put this. I'm going to pitch you on this one here. It's called
Please.
Redwood Services, equity to support and enhance the legacy of your service business. How's that?
I mean, that's pretty much it. And I
love it. That's because I love everything you guys are doing, and it's real. I'm serious. I'm a big fan. You probably know I was such a fanboy of your company. You thought I was just going to be this dude coming up here, but truthfully, it changes so many lives. And everything I've seen, everybody I've seen who's in it, and we have some of the clients who are in in Redwood Services as our clients, and all I can say is they have a sense of calm and a sense of confidence when they do things, because they feel like they have support, not just from Service MVP when we work with them and you work with them, but they feel like there's a certain confidence that they're making a good decision when they get involved with something like this. And I want to thank you, Richard, for coming here today and giving this advice to contractors. I think it's going to be helpful to inspire a lot of people as to a way to enhance that legacy. But thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just to let you know, of the 13 partner companies that are part of the Redwood family, so 13 of the 15 were not looking to do any sort of deal when we started talking. So the one piece of advice I would give to any contractor out there is, explore the different setups, the different ways of going about this, because there's more than one way of doing this. You don't have to just sell your business and ride off into the sunset. I really believe that our structure at Redwood allows business owners to have their cake and eat it too. So again, I'm happy to have conversations with anyone that not even in exploring a sale or a partnership, but just wants to learn more about this world and how we think about things. And I love talking to contractors. I love talking to influencers like you, people that have paved the way for businesses like mine to even exist. So I just appreciate the opportunity to tell the Redwood story. We're so unique. Sometimes we get bucketed in to what everyone else is doing. And really the only way I can explain that we're different is to be on, shows like this where I get an opportunity to explain it in a little more detail.
When I heard what Brendan told me about your company and what I saw you on stage at our True Grit conference, what I really saw was something that I truly believe in, which is provide value first to earn the right to have somebody be your partner on this stuff. Makes sense? That to me, it's like I don't expect somebody to join Service MVP, and I know you guys don't expect somebody to join Redwood Services unless they can see the value they get first. I want people to get a sense of value, and it looks like that's what I see in Redwood Services is that you want people to get a sense of value before any financial transactions are to happen. Does that make sense, sir, Richard? Am I on the right page there?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, definitely, Richard. How can people get a hold of you to explore possibilities where they can, to be able to imagine this, everybody. I want everybody, all the contractors, imagine this. Imagine running your business without stress of the big picture financial. Like you'll have people who will help you with that, and people who will be your partners in this area. So you don't got to do it all yourself, and you don't got to sit at the kitchen table with your wife, pounding your fist on the table. But man, if we just had more capital, we could grow this thing. This is what you're going to get with this. And so, Richard, how do people get a hold of you, and how does this process start if they want to get involved with you?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest thing to do is just to go to redwoodservices.com. We have lots of videos that I think would give people a good sense of what it's like to be a part of the Redwood family. It's very easy to get in touch with me. My email is richard@redwoodservices.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn. People can find me there. But, in addition to people reaching out to me, obviously I'm a little bit biased towards Redwood being the absolute best investor in the space. But the other thing I would offer is if anybody wants to talk to any of the owners that are already part of the Redwood family to learn what was it like to go through a process or a transaction, what's it been like after, how do we support our partners? Any of our 15 partners around the country would be more than happy to talk to anyone about the experience and what it's been like. And, we are building something different here that people are proud of. And one of the coolest things is when I travel to our different partner locations, just seeing people wear the Redwood logo on a polo or a hat. Like, I think people are proud of their association with this business. And so again, anyone can get in touch with me, anyone on the Redwood team, or anyone really within Redwood Nation.
Richard, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time at an event or something like that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.